Welcome to the So Far SoRare podcast. This week I spoke with Sam Tighe and we talked about loads of stuff happening in SoRare and the world of football this week. There's some massive transfers that have happened and some quite exciting things on the horizon on SoRare. I hope you enjoyed. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Sam Tighe, how are you doing, sir?
No, don't do this to me.
This is So Far
I've been waiting to do this all week. I've been like, Sam Tighe. Just fucking up as many times as I can in the intro.
Listen,
Sam Tighe.
you can't say anything that I haven't heard over the years. And imagine going through every school year fresh for the first set of registers with every new teacher, and imagine all the different variations you get. I mean, they just don't know. So it's okay.
Is there one that stands out?
Tighe, yeah, Tighe, which created a nickname for me at school, which I actually didn't mind.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad
Tighe.
I've been called worse. I've been called Mr. Blobby before, so I take Tighe every day of the week, and that wasn't even a play on words. That's just a fat joke. But Sam, look, finally you're here. You've got a can of Guinness, and it's some funky coffee infused malarkey, but it sounds tasty.
Yeah. I'm not here to sell products, John. I'm not here to sell product, but the new Guinness coffee cold brew is exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. And you can only drink it in the afternoon because the caffeine content is so high that it sends you through the walls if you drink it at 7 p.m. and you'll never get to sleep. So now's the opportunity.
Yeah. Get it in early. You have to. That's like one of the few alcoholic beverages you have to drink before 5 o'clock.
It's like an espresso martini. You have to be careful on the timings.
Do you know what I love? Here's one for listeners at home. And I love an espresso martini as much as the next man, but I particularly love it after like a meal, But I'm talking one of those, what I've got very good at in literally the last 3 months. Okay. I was terrible at it all the way through my 20s. I'm 29 now. And what I've got very good at is when I go out in a session and I know I'm out for the night and I'm out all day, I do not overeat at dinner. I learned a lesson of too many times. You go out and I get the starter and I get the main and then the dessert. Okay, great. And then I'm fucked. So now I'll just take my time, have some fun, have a little main, take it handy. I might even leave a few chips on the plate, which isn't like me. And the espresso martini is essential straight afterwards. But what also works is a black coffee, an Americano, and just get a shot of amaretto. Put the shot of amaretto in the coffee, throw it down the nanny goat, and you're on their way, It's all set for the night. So there's one for listeners.
The nanny goat. Jesus.
Nanny goat. Yeah, I don't know. Throat, some Ryman slang, yeah. But I have one more non-SoRare related story that I want to tell. I think it's time. I nearly got killed last week. Yeah.
What?
By road rage. I swear to God. You see, if I was in America, this woman would have shot me. Guaranteed. There was actual foam coming out of her mouth. I got this rabid, absolute knacker woman, right? So basically, we're coming up to this junction, and I've sort of went in. I've talked to 3, 4, 5 different people who go to this junction regularly. I was 100% in the right. She cuts across my lane, so I honk the horn as you do, because otherwise she was going to hit me. And she got out of her car. She started giving me it. She was kind of side on to me like this, so she could see me and I could see her. She's giving me a bit. And I was kind of giving her a bit back. She gets out of the car and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, if this is a man, I get out of the car too. And we have the wee standoff and I can protect myself. When it's a woman, it's like, if I get out of this car, if she punches me, what do I do? Run away in the middle of the busiest junction in Cork? Anyway, put the window down a little bit too much, to be honest. She could have fit a fist through and she nearly did. And she went fucking off at me. She really teed off on me and she was saying, she just collected her daughter from the hospital and I didn't know who I was honking at. And, I was in real big trouble and I honked at the wrong person and she took a photo of me. I was afraid I was going to get handed into paramilitaries and I was going to be kneecapped that evening. But it was my birthday weekend. We're past that. But
did she not know that it was your birthday? I mean, you said it enough times on the podcast and on Twitter.
Obviously not a listener,
That's ridiculous.
I mean, it says a lot about her character, but it's so hilarious now. I've got an Apple Watch as of 2 weeks ago. My heart rate hit 155 beats per minute. Man was ready for fight or flight, and I think it was flight more than fight, but that was the craziest thing that happened in my week. Have you had anything mad happen yet?
Nothing like that, thankfully. Nice and calm over here.
That's only the second time in my life someone's got out of a car at me, which I think two times in 10 years driving. I don't know if that's high or low.
About par for the course, I'd say. I think I've probably had about a similar.
Fair.
Yeah, I think that's about fair.
Yeah. I've never got out of my car first, but anyway, there we go. There's a side story. So Sam, you've been on the platform since the 19th of September 2021. So you've been on less than a year. As you said yourself, you maybe are a bit different. I didn't realize I'm getting whale fever. I'm getting whales on every single week. And I mean, you still have a substantial gallery, don't get me wrong. But I mean, compared to some of the recent guests, you're in a different sort of ballpark, which is great because I mean, a lot of listeners are as well. How have you found your first sort of 9 months on SoRare?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I listen to the pod every week, and it is almost always, someone who has a gallery substantially larger than mine. So I think for a lot of people listening, or hopefully, my gallery is probably a bit more relatable, given that it's worth just under 5 ETH, which nowadays is about 6p. But it's I've got the ability to run two rare lineups, and I've degened into limiteds pretty hard this summer because I've been so fucking bored. So then another couple as well, but. Really, up until the end of the season, I've just been trying to hit the threshold. Like that's literally just goal 1, 2, and 3. Hit 250, hit 250. I got my first rare goalkeeper back in the winter break in December when Austria and Russia went into winter break. I picked up Wilmar Barrios and Andreas Leitner, so midfield and goalkeeper. I've just been trying to hit the 250, man. And then towards the end of the season, I then started to sort of use that as a platform to try and improve my players or upgrade my players so that 250 was my kind of base, and I could try and notch up towards the 300. So I started trading in like your typical ETH threshold players and trying to sign someone with a bit of a higher ceiling. Basically, I needed decisives. I needed more chance of a decisive. So, I try and get like Felipe Anderson at Lazio and swap him in for whichever rubbish forward I was using at the time. And Kerem Demirbay from Bayer Leverkusen, take set pieces, more chance sizes, that sort of stuff. And I must admit, I've absolutely loved the first, what is it going to be, 9 months or so, 8 months on the platform. I absolutely love it. Like I have the bug big time. Like it's difficult to stay away from SoRare data on a daily basis. I'm constantly checking the value of my gallery, constantly looking at stuff. I've put more money in over the summer just to feel something, man, just a bit of boredom. Like, I never thought I'd build an MLS limited team, but here I am, and I've got one.
Yeah. Let's go. I think like you've been in journalism and football for 10 years, is it? So you've been around the block. Yeah. You've been in the industry for a while now. Has SoRare fundamentally changed anything? Added anything? Because I mean, it's safe to say you were pretty balls deep already in football. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I watch tons of football anyway and have done for ages, and all sorts of obscure stuff as well. So watching rogue games and random games isn't exactly an alien concept to me, but it probably has pushed me into the depths of which I would never have anticipated. Like a nice 10 a.m. kickoff on a Saturday to watch Fatih Karagümrük in Turkey. Didn't think I'd be there, buddy. Definitely had to check myself on that one. I was like, well, how's my Davide Biraski rare getting on? My wife was like, "Are you joking me?
Are you off your game?"
Yeah. And I'm trying to find a stream for Zenit on a Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. and stuff like that. And people are like, "Are you okay?" Like tapping me on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely pushed me into certain depths that I didn't think, but I wasn't that far off those depths anyway. I watch a ton of football, Europe's top 5 leagues, and then a couple of others, the Dutch stuff and the Portuguese stuff. I watch youth tournaments, have done for years, under 19 Euros, under 20 World Cups, South American qualifiers. I've been there and I've sat there, watched Venezuela under 17s against Ecuador under 17s. I've done all of that. So it complements and suits my lifestyle really well anyway. And gives me an opportunity to sort of gamify it and earn from it to an extent as well, which is obviously very welcome.
And how has the ETH dip affected that earning? Do you know, if you're here, I mean, obviously it sounds like you're very much here for the passion and entertainment aspect, but also making money is a great sort of side hustle. It's a great sort of byproduct of that. How has the recent ETH dip affected your confidence or your action on the market?
Well, I heard you rolling this around with Chani last week as well, and Chani basically said, as long as you're having fun, it's fine. And I think he's onto it. I think that's basically how you put it. Are you having fun? Like when you put a bit of money into this platform, when you buy a limited team, are you expecting to make that money back? Like I paid 100 quid for a Diego Fagundes from Austin the other day. Do I expect to make that back in the next 3 months? No, but like I do want to have fun and put a lineup in. And I am really bored. because there's no European football on. So I do have to trade that off as well. Like, I am really bored. That you cannot underestimate how bored I was. So it's okay. And look, it hasn't really hit me or affected me because I'm not earning any money on this platform anyway, because I only have European teams. So I have not been touching the threshold for a month. So like the ETH dip almost hasn't really bothered me. I mean, I've had to convert the way I think about buying cards. I've decided to start valuing them in pounds rather than ETH. I figured that the best way to do it is when ETH is low, value it in pounds, and vice versa when ETH is high. But like, yeah, it just hasn't really affected my enjoyment of the game. Hasn't really stopped me from buying it. In fact, I've bought tons of cards this summer. Like 3 weeks ago, I sat down and planned an entire challenger team so that I could field a team on weekend of July 15 because I was bored, and I managed to do it in a limited standpoint. And I've got a rare team ready to go for weekend of July 22. Like, I've been bored, man. Like I've got, I've really been putting the effort in. So this hasn't affected me at all.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I think like there's a lot of discussion all over the community at the minute around my microphone keeps going up and down in volume. I don't know if you're hearing that, and I hope Emily isn't going to have a nightmare. I'll put it back and hope it stays.
That's very loud. John.
Okay, very loud. Oh god,
very loud.
Oh god, Emily, I'm wrecking everything. Wrecking the gaff. For everyone listening who can't see this, I'm just poking my microphone a lot. Now I'm bloody quiet. We've got one more. Let's hope this works. You're going to have to equalize and balance things. So everyone's talking about ETH and pounds and whatever else, and it's dominating conversation. But the reality, I think, is that like, and whether or not this should be the case, for a large perspective of a large amount of the platform, they don't really give a shit because maybe they're not that active in terms of trading. Maybe they're not looking to cash out. Maybe they're not looking to deposit. Maybe they're sat in a gallery. Maybe they're trading. And if you're kind of trading, like, everyone's price goes up or everyone's price goes down in Fate or ETH, and it's kind of like maybe not as many people give a shit as you'd think. Like, I've kind of looked at it as a bit of a buying opportunity because I have Fate sat there, and I'm kind of like, do I want to put more in? Here's the real question. But some of the cards compared to what they used to be, because ETH's dipped and because the market corrected and it's off season, all these million factors, look very cheap in terms of pounds and euros. But yeah.
ETH is means to an end, John. For me, ETH is means to an end. It just, I wouldn't have it if I didn't require it to play this game. Like, I'm not a crypto person at all. I hold no crypto whatsoever. When I joined, except for my assets in SoRare, when I joined SoRare, I had to get my friend Pet Barisha, who does the SoRare guide. I asked him a billion questions about the platform, but also a billion more questions about how to, open a MetaMask wallet. Like, I had no idea what any of this stuff was in September. I just see it as a process that I have to go through in order to play this game. If they did it in pounds and allowed me to deposit without ramp, which is rubbish, I would just do that. But it's not really beneficial. So this sort of thing doesn't bother me. It doesn't hinder my enjoyment of the game. I just play it because I really like it, and I almost grin and bear the reality of crypto, which is attached to it, just because it is the only way that I can play this game.
Well, I think like SoRare have themselves outright kind of said that it's the technology of the blockchain and Ethereum that they're wanting to use. It's not necessarily people having to be in crypto or buy Ethereum. So for them, it's almost about being Web 2.5. Not that they'd say that, but they kind of want it to be really, really accessible. I don't think they would say that. They want to be very Web 3, I'd imagine, but like they want it to be accessible to the layperson, and maybe take the, I don't know, the taboo-ness or the whatever it is. I worked very early and I'm on a run of night duties, and my head isn't firing on all cylinders. People can probably already hear it. It's only going to get worse. But I think they would take the ETH out of it altogether if they could, very easily. Maybe I'm wrong. If they could still maintain kind of the whole blockchain aspect and everything else. But look, we'll see how that goes. A lot of talk about stable coins and all this bollocks, but that's way over my pay grade, to be honest. I don't know if you've anything on that.
Nope.
Yeah, let's move on. So yes, something I wanted to bring up to you, and again, we're going to go down many holes, I've no doubt. Nicholas, Big Nick, has tweeted today saying, we're recording this on Wednesday, summer is going to be hot at SoRare. Lots of exciting stuff all around. I wish you all some well-deserved rest and fun. And my point here, right, is there's two sides to this fence, and I'm going to sit quite firmly on it, and I want to see what your take is. I've been involved in platforms before, and I think maybe because a lot of us have been, I think a lot of us are almost more dubious of this, more skeptical of this than we need to be, because we've been burnt by a platform where CEOs would hype shit up regularly, and then inevitably didn't deliver. So maybe I'm over skeptical, but part of me is like, you do realize if you tweet anything bullish at all, you need to deliver the Premier League. That's one side of my brain. It's like, this can't be basketball. This can't be
that's
some
the thing.
other Asian league.
I look at that and I think, well, either it's a reference to baseball, or he's taking the whole company on a nice summer retreat for a week. Summer's going to be hot.
Literally, it could be anything. But in my head, that's like Premier League inbound. And I think because that's how I think, I look at that and go, everyone thinks the Premier League's coming. So I think I look at that and go, you can't tweet that unless the Premier League's coming. Therefore, the Premier League's coming. And if it isn't, you're a madman, right? That's one side. But the other side of my head sits and goes, this is just the CEO and founder of a company who has a Twitter presence. This company is his life. And all he is saying, summer's going to be hot at SoRare, because there's a bit of a heat wave. It's a bit of a play on what's going on in the real world. Oh, it's going to be hot at SoRare. Lots of exciting stuff all around. Many things could be considered exciting. And I just wish you all some well-deserved rest and fun. I mean, it's the most innocent tweet in the world. But then he tweets that, which could be seen as innocent, but it gets 200, nearly 300 likes, a bunch of quote tweets, loads of retweets, and loads of people commenting under them with like Premier League like gifs and whatever else, and like people pouring gas onto fires and rockets and whatever else. And it's just like, I understand where you're at and you need to tweet about it and all, and it's your baby and the rest. And then the other side of me is like, you can never say anything because it's always going to be looked at way too in depth. And here I am bringing it up on my bloody podcast, one tweet.
Yeah, you're the problem, John.
I'm the enabler.
You're the one with the X-ray machine here on a very innocent looking tweet.
I know.
I mean, look, you've got to be careful. Like, I know that you're desperate for the Premier League to be onboarded, because it would mean so much to the platform, and you have to be wary of confirmation biases and reading into things because you want to infer what you want from it. But really, when people tweet stuff, very often it doesn't mean anything, But even if they're like really powerful, it's just a tweet. So yeah, good old Nicholas is having a nice 3 weeks in Miami. That's what I'm taking from that.
Say that to Dogecoin holders whenever Elon Musk tweeted. Do you know what I mean? No, I hear you. Like, I think it is, confirmation bias is exactly what it is. We all want the Premier League so much. When we see anything that vaguely supports that agenda, it's like, oh, must be it. Same with the second thing I was going to bring up on this kind of like speculation. I was doing a live stream with Quinny. Congratulations, Quinny's been on the platform 2 years, and Andy Laird on Monday night. And if anyone wants to watch that, I think it's on Quinny's channel. Go and check it out. But halfway through the stream, someone commented, and I went and had a look, and the Liverpool cards had lost their bonuses. Ooh. And as had Kante and De Bruyne and the Premier League players.
Surely that would mean Napoli, your Koulibaly's lost it too. Is that right?
No.
Oh.
Exactly.
It's the same,
you're
it's the
doing
same
what
season,
we
right?
did. Yes, you're doing what we did. It's the same season. So the Koulibaly and the Trent, the same season. Trent lost his bonus. Koulibaly hasn't.
Right.
Yet.
Do you remember when they removed the bonuses from the MLS cards by accident really early?
No, I don't really do MLS, but that happened.
That happened ahead of this new season. It was back in like January or February. They removed all the new season bonuses too early, and had to apologize and put them back on again. So yeah, it could be an admin error. Could be, or
you see, there's when does Serie A come back?
It's usually about a week after the Premier League, or 2 weeks, so it would be mid-August.
Serie A kicks off on August the 13th, whereas the Premier League was 1 week before on August the 6th. It's actually August the 5th now, the Friday evening game.
Yeah.
Palace and Arsenal, is it? But the thing here is, people are saying, okay, well, maybe SoRare take the feed direct from Opta X amount of weeks in advance, 6 weeks, 8 weeks in advance, whatever that actually is. And because of that, now the Premier League fixtures are loaded into Opta or something because they were released, and therefore this is what's happened, and that's why Serie A hasn't happened because they're a week behind, and blah, 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 blah. And that's fair.
Yeah.
But confirmation bias, baby. It's the dream, isn't it?
Well, let me, here's something that happened to me this week that I noticed when scrolling through my gallery. I've got an Edo Kayembe, who joined Watford in January from a Belgian club. He has now been relegated, so I'm quite excited about the prospect of having a midweek all-star player there for a midweek threshold team. He's a rare card. He's a midfielder, and he has a nice big red X next to his name. It's just come up in the last 2 days, and I don't know why it's happened because he plays in the Championship. So what's going on there? So I checked it. I actually raised a support ticket. I felt like a right dickhead. I put a support ticket in. Where, excuse me, my Edo Kayembe is playing in the Championship, which is a scoreable league, and you've put a red X next to him. And they've written back and said, oh, it's an issue with Opta or something, and we'll get it sorted. So there's a couple of different things happening here.
Yeah, and they all support my theory, which is incredibly biased and hopeful. So there was definitely, Dan definitely put it out somewhere. I can't see it in announcements. I can't see it in official support. Definitely put out, was it an email? There was something I seen somewhere about an issue with the XPs and whatever. Don't know. I don't have it with me. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a few too many little things racking up. And I've heard one or two things through the grapevine which aren't confirmed. And I don't want to even put them out here. But I've just heard a few things that my balls are starting to tingle, but I know that I really shouldn't. And I know when you're hosting a podcast that's one of the bigger podcasts in the SoRare space, you have to kind of be responsible because we all do have to be prepared for the potential that SoRare just don't get it. And it's a very real possibility. It is a very real possibility. Like when I look at it from my massively biased head, I look at it and I go, is there another NFT project out there that can guarantee the Premier League as much revenue as SoRare can? I don't believe there is. I really don't believe there is. If you look at primary sales, if they stick a secondary sale commission on it, I do not believe there is another project that could generate as much money out of these NFTs. And for that reason, on top of the fact that we know the war chest of the millions or whatever, hundreds of millions,
and also in the back of your head, I'm sure, is just needling away in there is that I don't want to say promise because it wasn't a promise, but it was a claim, an affirmation from Nicholas, who said that he wanted to get the top 20 leagues done by the end of this year.
That was his confident
goal. That was his goal, and he was confident. That was a claim. It was an assertion. That is surely gnawing away at the inside of your skull there all the while.
That all these little things that have happened. Whenever Ultimate Champions announced that they had the Arsenal license, and someone was a Perez or someone tweeted like, how do you feel about other NFT companies getting Premier League licenses or something? And SoRare replied and wrote license with a wee asterisk implying they only got one, which you don't do that if you're not going to get at least one yourself. Do you know what I mean? You don't.
Do you feel like a tortured soul, John? You sound like a tortured soul.
I feel like in my heart of hearts, I think it's coming. I think subtly, not really abrasively, not to the point that we can ever go, but you said this, but we have been led to believe it's coming. One way or another, we've been led to believe on these little signals and little things. We have been led to believe it. And whatever about XP, it's tiny. It's probably nothing, But I mean, something's happening this summer. Something's happening.
Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, something else I wanted to talk to you about there's a few things actually. But I'm going to meet you this summer.
Yes, I'm coming to the meetup.
Because you're coming to the meetup.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should do this. I know how many people have bought tickets so far. Is that something you release if you have an event?
It's 2, isn't it? It's you and me.
It's like 7. No, there's more. There's
4 people from America.
4 people. There's 4 people. There's 3 people from America and a Canadian. And there is also, let me just double check this. I'm pretty sure he confirmed this with me this morning, but it was very early, very late his time, I imagine. Flights booked. We have someone coming from the Philippines. Predictology is flying in from the Philippines, 3 from the States, 1 from Canada. That's 5 people from outside the continent flying to be there for this SoRare London meetup. So if you're French, German, Dutch, Spanish, Italian, I could keep going. Belgian, I don't know, something else, something weird. You've no excuse. If you're English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, you really have no excuse, at all.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't think I had much of a choice, especially when you released that it was around the Waterloo area, because my train takes 30 minutes. So
unreal.
Like,
sorted.
Well, I think I should be going to that one, but I am looking forward to it.
I know, I can't wait. It's going to be good. There's going to be loads more announced in lockdown over the next month. Actually, do you know what? Just to speak on it, because it was actually announced since the last time I recorded officially on Twitter. The one small bit of feedback that was kind of received in any way, shape, or form was that people felt I'd led them down the garden path and made them think it was going to be exclusively SoRare massive event. On this people who listen to this podcast know that I have spoke about a couple of times in this and decisions that went behind it. You know, this is co-located with an FPL event, a fantasy football fest, which are not called FPL Fest, they're called Fantasy Football Fest because they want to bring in other elements of fantasy, other DFS sites and other things. SoRare, because I approached them, just happens to be the first. Now, there will be a main stage with FPL content, but this is a massive venue. It can fit like 1,000 people, and I think their last event had like 300, and they actually close off a massive part of it. We're hopefully going to bring another 100 of that, and if we get the numbers, I'm going to be looking for our own area with our own stage and maybe get different content creators to take different slots throughout the night so that I'm not on a stage for hours. But failing that, if maybe we don't get 75, 100 people, if we get 45 SoRare managers, I'm confident we'll smash that based on how many I've bought tickets so far. But worst case scenario is we have our own area with a bar to do whatever the fuck we want. And then for an hour at some stage in the evening, probably at about 7, 8, 9 o'clock, I'll bounce on a stage for an hour and get different content creators up from the SoRare space, give some stuff away, chat about SoRare and have a bit of a laugh. But the whole thing here is the networking and the banter and the meeting your online friends, and there will be ample space and time to do that. So yeah, it is co-located with an FPL event, but I think that's great. You know, there'll be a few hundred FPL lovers, fantasy lovers, who you can go and give your refer a friend codes to. So good luck. Someone might bash out a unique that night.
Yeah, you never know. I'm one of the newer codes, so if I even ever get to my 30 or whatever it is, I think I just get a limited card. I think they changed the rules on that one quite quickly. If you're
there's no unique for you.
Oh goodness, no! Are you joking me? No way.
For 30, you don't. I'm pretty sure everyone gets that.
I don't think so. Let me have a look.
Hear about this? I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure you get the unique.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have a look now. But I remember looking at it and thinking, well, that's not very good. But maybe I didn't understand it at the time because, as we've said many times, the onboarding process is pretty overwhelming.
It is.
So my head was probably spinning at the sight of the website. But I'll have a look while we continue talking.
Do, but I'm pretty sure you'll get it. And then just for anyone who's listening and debating it, you know, there are plenty of people coming on their own. Don't let that put you off. We're all alone in this together in our real lives. So we're all going to go here alone, I imagine, or maybe with a few online friends. But everyone will, you know, I've met people in person about SoRare before. I met 15 people in Orlando, 10 people in Manchester. Loads of people traveled on their own, and it wasn't even remotely awkward. Like, it's just not, because you automatically have something to bond over. So do not be worrying about that. And if you have any more questions, you can find me on Twitter. But yeah, tickets, go and get them. The link is in the description, or on my Twitter, or reach out.
It'd be even more awkward if you brought a friend with you who doesn't play SoRare for company, because then that friend would be like, well, what the hell is this? And I've just checked, my mistake. I do get a unique if I get 30. I probably didn't think it was a very good deal because I've so far managed a grand total of 0.
yeah. I actually haven't went down that refer a friend route, but I'm thinking I might do it, like stick it on a few of my YouTube videos for a while and hope they trickle in over a few months and see what happens. But I don't know. I'm always afraid that I'll catch a whale in the affiliate net, and then they've signed up to the refer a friend and they go on to spend 100 ETH and I get like a unique which was worth $3,000, which probably actually isn't far off. Anyway, yeah. So look, that's the meetup plug. Looking forward to meeting a load of people, and fair play to everyone who's bought their tickets. What I will say, actually, and this is the last point, I haven't announced this yet, but it's been playing on my mind the last few days. I just need to work out the logistics of it. I was saying to you before we recorded, Sam, I want to reward people who buy their tickets early. The beauty of buying the tickets early is it really lets me know how many people are going to be there, and the more numbers I have to go to SoRare with, the more merch, giveaways, etc. they can give me. So if I'm able to go in 2 weeks' time and say, look, 75 people have already bought their tickets, then we're more likely to get more shit and help. So I'm going to come up with an incentive. So basically, get your tickets bought before the 1st of July, because I'm probably going to make a tweet soon about that and kind of give away 4 free drinks or something, or a couple of free tickets or whatever to people who actually buy them first. Just reimburse a couple of tickets or something. I don't even know. I need to work it out. Anyway, So we've talked about that. Yes. The next topic is about how SoRare can like supercharge fandom in players and clubs. You've obviously, as we've spoke about, followed football, niche football around the world for years. But has SoRare changed maybe your strange obsession with players, or have you always kind of had that? Because I know, like with me and Danny Parejo, that's very much a weird thing, but I love it, and I wouldn't change
Yeah.
it for the world.
I mean, I've had obsessions with players before, but the difference nowadays is that this player no longer has to be any good at football whatsoever. Like usually, I would be drawn to, like everybody else, I'd be drawn to an exotic playmaker or a rapid winger or someone that's like
Rashford
a
or
Marcelo.
Grealish.
Yeah, like or anything. Yeah, either of those two would be fine. The guys behind me, any of those guys would be fine. But even also like a Marcelo who just bombards down the wing and just does his own thing and ignores all the team instructions, like maverick players, exciting players, fun players. Because of the SoRare matrix, and because you end up going and watching games and then narrowing in very specifically on one single player, I've ended up developing bonds for those that have helped me hit the 250 threshold. And they're not that good, man. Like, I like these players way more than I should. At least with yours, Danny Parejo is really good. Like, he's a Champions League quality player. For my guys, like my original 5 first players that I bought in Rare to chase the threshold, Jean-Charles Castelletto at Nantes, Wallace at Udinese, Samir at Udinese, and then Watford. I think he's moving again. Luis Suarez, the Granada version, so like the second best Luis Suarez in La Liga, and Jorge de Frutos, who got relegated with Levante. Like, I'd die for these guys. They're the first cards I bought. And they're the ones that kick-started my threshold chase back when I was using a common keeper. You know, actually, some of them have turned out to be quite good. But Castelletto's got European football next season because Nantes won the French Cup. So he's turned out to be a really valuable card. And Wallace is like the most perfect ETH threshold chasing player in the world. I won't hear anything against him. But these players I'm sort of minorly obsessed with, and I shouldn't be.
Well, yeah, and that is what SoRare does. I always think a hoodwink with Cecilia sliding into the DMs asking him if he's fit, you know, that type of stuff. And like,
dude, Cecilia though, different animal. Like this midweek, you know, this midweek is very quiet, right? You've only got Asia, I think, this week. I put out a common team again, just really bored, with only Cecilia in it, and everyone else was a DNP. And I captained him, and he got 100 points. And I'm in the top 20% of managers.
Yeah. He's different.
Because of Cecilia, he is literally a one-man team in this respect.
I'm gonna go and look at him here. Like his scores are stupid, and actually, like when you look at his scores, I know there's a lot of risk tied to him, but like compare like his scores versus his price. It's obscene, like compared to like European. But again, it's just there's a lot of nuances there. But I'd love to have guys like that. Part of me would love to just fully DJing into like buying the Gill and the Cecinias and like all those guys who are just like the best guys for every summer. But I'm afraid, like when I look at like a Gill, and I do not know the guy, I do not know his history, I don't know what his plans are, but I always think like, what if he just goes to like the championship or like
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a minefield across the board, isn't it? I saw the footy guy tweeting today on Wednesday. He's basically looking at these Umar Soleil rumors, who I'm sure you're delighted to talk about. Potentially going to Torino, and it's like, well, he's just lost either Fabio Vieira or Vitinho, one of the two Porto lads, and then you've got Soleil. That's like the heart of your under 23 challenger team ripped out. And unless you're buying players that play for like Real Madrid, like they are constantly on the radars of others, and especially if they're challenger and they're under 23, it's just difficult. And I'm almost fortunate that I just can't afford to be involved, because I think so many of my plans would also go awry.
Yeah, Soleil is he's a bit of a heartbreaker for me. He's the Bloodbath story of the week, where basically I bought him. I think I paid like 3.5 ETH or something. And this was before ETH crashed. I could probably find out very quickly. Yeah, there I got him for. I paid 3 ETH, right, which at the time was €5,000. And a super rare, that card sold today for €1,500. So essentially 3.5 grand potentially. That's the change in value there. Now, I do think that one that was bought today was actually a decent pickup. I feel like that's a proper FOMO sale. I feel, or not the opposite of FOMO. What's the opposite of FOMOing?
Just
fear of missing out, fear of being
panic
fucked.
Panic selling.
FOBF, fear of being fucked.
Yeah.
Like, he literally sold them, I think, way underpriced. So, because I mean, when I look at Solet and I keep saying Solet, Soleil, he's French. When I look at Torino and I look at like their kind of central defender Bremer, who's 25, like he actually scored remarkably over the last sort of couple of seasons. He scores well. He does. Did. And now I know you like him, you think he's a good player. I don't know if Umar can go over and do anything similar to that, but I don't think he's necessarily a dead card. It's a massive kick in the stones, don't get me wrong, but I'm not selling him for 1,400 quid in a super rare when he's under 23, that promising, and the transfer is not even confirmed.
Yeah, and the fact that, okay, he's not going to a dominant team in the league, but he will play football. Like, it's not like he's been sold to Saudi Arabia. It's not like that at all. I was monitoring a goalkeeper a couple of weeks ago, Jakob Rinner in Denmark. It's coming to the end of his deal, and I was just about to pull the trigger on him at about 0.3, I think, at the time, for a rare goalkeeper. And I started getting price alerts on my phone for SoRare data. I got one that was like, 0.28. I was like, perfect, I'll go on and do that in 10 minutes. Then I got another one, and another one, and another one. And you know, when you get like 4 or 5 and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell has happened here? Google his name, agreed a deal with like Al Sadd or something. And I was like, whoa, I was like an hour from buying him. And then you look at SoRare data and the dots just drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. And that was off a report. And I don't actually think he's gone. I think he's still unattached. And the latest rumor was that he was going to go to France. And so his prices with the ETH crash as well is back up to like 0.8. So anyone that panic sold in that little split hour or two there is probably feeling really quite stupid. So it's a dicey game. But look, Bremer's more than good. Bremer was unbelievable last season. He got Serie A Defender of the Year. And on multiple occasions, he was dispatched from a back three. He was given the task of just man-marking one player. Like, if the opponent that Torino were playing, they had a bit of a habit of ruining the big team's day. And it was because they could play a back three and ask Bremer to man-mark the striker, the really good striker. And there were a couple of games where he just pocketed the league's best. And there was one in particular, Vlahovic was flying. He'd just signed for Juventus. He'd scored on his debut. Bremer just dealt with him like nothing. It was so easy for him. So we're talking about an exceptional footballer there in Bremer, who probably ends up at Inter Milan this summer, I think, or something like that.
And he's no cards and SoRare.
Yeah, so it's difficult. It's difficult to say like whether Soleil can go in there, because it's a hell of a step up. Like Austrian Bundesliga to top 5 leagues, big step, huge step. Same thing for like Brendan Aronson, like absolutely monumental change. Has a big task to adjust quickly here, even with the connection of Jesse Marsh as manager. And then it's the question of, can you go and produce at Bremer's level on the Matrix, which I would strongly doubt. But Soleil is a very talented young player.
Yeah, it maybe is a bit naive just to look at, who's the best Torino defender? He's going to go in and do that. I don't think he is, but I think like it shows like that a defender can score in Torino if they're good enough.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Because there are just teams that no defender scores well, based on the style of play, based on whatever it happens to be. But yeah, look, it's one of those. It wasn't great news to wake up to, particularly because I only picked him up how long ago? 13 days ago, and he was kind of my marquee buy for next season, you know. And it brings me on to the next point, where I have always bought speculatively. I like buying guys if they're a challenger. I don't like buying the hype guy a challenger. I don't like buying Cockchu whenever he's Cockchu. I don't like buying, and I know I bought Gakpo when Gakpo was Gakpo, but like, and I know I've definitely bought a load of these guys when they're already kind of something. But my point is, I much prefer players with much more, with only really upside. Like, there's loads of guys I can go and buy who have upside, but they don't really have much downside. Do you know? Like Nicolo Rovella, back at Juve, all the talent in the world. Downside, okay, maybe he sits on the bench at Juve for a year and gets sporadic game time. Upside, he gets a transfer. He does amazing. Upside, he actually slots in at Juve after maybe a few months of the season because he's playing really well. they're not exactly stacked midfield. That's probably about to change with Pogba, but blah, blah, blah. My point is, Samuel Chukwueze, same. Hulsager, horrible season last year. If I look back through my gallery, like some of my best buys have been speculative. Leao was speculative. Kulusevski was relatively speculative. Nico Williams was speculative. De Kaiser was speculative. And they're all massive, massive wins. This is the first massive, massive loss, apart from Wesley, which was just shit trading, that I will have taken. And it's arguably the first time at SoRare anyway, where I've went out and just bought marquee challenger. I don't know. I'm just so wrecked. My head is fried because part of me gets the whole argument of you buy the good guys and they'll win you cards. But then the other part of me is like, if I just buy the guys who are a bit shitter, or not necessarily shit, but have much more chance of upside, then it's a better bet. You know what I mean?
It's also more fun.
Yeah.
It's like way more fun. Like, I've just gone and bought some limited MLS cards that are seemingly top of the range. I very rarely do this because I've just not been able to afford to do it in the rare game at all. But I've gone and bought Diego Fagundes, and I've gone and bought Alan Franco from Atlanta, who's posting outrageous scores at the moment. And I've bought him for a top end price, which I wouldn't usually do. But again, I reiterate, I could not be more bored. This is just what happens, unfortunately. But generally speaking, I don't see much fun in that. And I like to, within reason, take some strikes, bet on some players. I bought a couple of under 23 forwards this summer. Somehow the value was there and I bought them. I would never have done that 6 months ago. But summer is a time for speculation. It is a time for projection. Sometimes it goes for you. Sometimes it doesn't. I haven't had many heartbreaks so far on SoRare, fortunately. And any that I have had have been within reason because my spend hasn't been too high on like per card. Yeah. But I did just buy the backup Union Berlin goalkeeper because I bought the actual starting goalkeeper. So I buy the backup. That's my process. And the backup goalkeeper immediately transferred to Kaiserslautern in the second division, and he can't play. And he's 36, so he's done. He's out. He's finished. He will never play. He will never play a game in this matrix again. And I spent 0.14 on him, and I'm gutted. I'm absolutely furious because I disobeyed my own rules about age, about like security of asset. It's the first time I've done it. I just got a bit carried away because I was so. The goalkeeper market is absolutely the goalkeeper market is horrific. It's so bad that I panicked, and I've learnt my lesson. So there you go. There's 0.15 or so down the drain, and it's the first time it's happened on SoRare, but it's gonna happen to everyone at one point, right?
Yeah, lesson learned.
At least yours isn't down the drain. At least he gets to go and play.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, like, it happened me with who did it happen me with last year? Who was the Coop Miners? Coop Miners was the old cockchew, and then Coop Miners went to Atlanta and whatever, had a few good games. Arthur Fiate, the same. But I think if you really do, and I mean, here's the thing. I know it's not necessarily, maybe it's a unique position where I partially feel like I'm playing with house money because I got in very early and I got very lucky. That on top of a few other factors. And, whenever you're making content, you kind of want to do things for a bit of crack as well. You don't want to just be militant and boring. But like, part of me is kind of like, I am genuinely here hoping, praying that this game still exists in 2025 and I'm having some fun. Do you know what I mean? And I'm more than willing to back it all and just sit back, have fun for a few years, play the game. And if it's still around by then, Fiate and Sole and whoever else could be some of the best champion players there are. Do you know?
Of course.
It is a super long-term view.
You're running so many lineups already. You're already playing the game to your heart's content. So whether or not you take these strikes, you are already fielding how many lineups on it? Like, say the European season comes back in. What are you fielding? Like 7, 8 lineups, 9 lineups, or something like that? Whatever it is.
Lot, yeah.
You can list a top 5 because I've heard you do it with Harry. You can literally pick a top 5. So you're already enjoying the game to its maximal ability. So you can then go and take some strikes and use your earnings and go and find a player that you think is undervalued or might pop off in 6 months. Not everyone is in the same boat. Some people need immediate utility and immediate scores. I'm in that boat, but that's fine. We're at different stages. I joined 7-8 months ago. You joined 2 years ago, or whatever it is. It's just a different stage of playing. Either way, you're just trying to enjoy it. It just comes in different ways.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that's it. Whenever I have a gallery that is very much speculative on under 23s, you win some, you lose some every transfer window. This was a big loss early enough in the day. But I'm hopeful that maybe one or two other guys become first team next season, get a move, do this, do that, and then, it evens out over the summer. You could have a few more, like the Porto lads killed some guys. The moves that have been happening over at Porto. There could be some more moves to happen. But speaking of moves, not necessarily Bloodbath or anything, but I just want to get your opinion on a few big transfers, unless you have something to say.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just before we go into that, I want to give you something that might keep you a little bit warm this afternoon after this terrible morning you've had, which is if SoRare moves to Torino, Torino's manager is a man named Ivan Juric, whose nickname is the centre-back whisperer. The centre-backs that he has come into contact with, including Bremer at Hellas Verona, Genoa before that, but mostly Hellas Verona and Torino now, have become a lot better very quickly. Some of the better centre-back performances that we've seen out of Italy in the last couple of years have been thanks to Ivan Juric, who is probably ready for a better job, but hasn't quite got it yet. So SoRare moves to a coach who is renowned for getting very, very good results out of players in his positions.
That actually does warm my heart a little bit.
There you go.
Everyone who's listening to this now who has a SoRare and was panicking, they're probably thinking, do you know what? I'm in. Let's go, Sam. I'm in. Let's back this guy. So look, that definitely helps. But there's been a few big transfers in the world of football, and probably one or two of these are even bigger in terms of SoRare. So we'll rattle the three of them out. I just want to get your opinions on them. The first one I want to ask you about is Haller at Dortmund. Now, they've already signed Adeyemi. How much is this going to impact that whole dream of under-23 holders?
Well, I think it's probably really good news for Adeyemi, to be honest with you, because Adeyemi is not really a central striker. He played in a front two for Salzburg, basically makes runs from out to in. He kind of drifts wide off the ball and then receives the ball and then cuts inside. So he's kind of playing as a winger, even if he's being fielded up front. So I don't think it was ever a scenario where he comes into the Dortmund team and it's like the focal point up front. Like he's too small, he's too slight.
Yeah.
He doesn't do enough in terms of facilitating play. Haller does all of that stuff. He occupies defenders, he backs into them, he receives the longer balls. And I think in like a big man, small man combo, not as a front two, but like Adeyemi sort of coming off the flank a little bit, I think it's a really good scenario for Adeyemi to step into because he can still go over the top, long ball over the top for Dortmund, playing off the flank. That's what he did for Salzburg. And the onus isn't all on him to occupy people. He can free himself up for shots. Like, I think this is a lovely combo. I'm really, really bullish on Haller to Dortmund, not only for Dortmund's stability and the fact that they've actually signed a player over the age of 21, which is always welcome in terms of a squad balance and an age profile. But like, I think this helps Adeyemi a lot because they're not competing for the same spot in this team.
And that leads to Brobbey maybe becoming the focal point at Ajax, or do you think they'll sign someone else?
Who knows? I mean, they've just confirmed their new coach. It's Alfred Schroeder, I think. It's the guy that was, he was in charge. Was he Club Brugge? So I mean, if he plays Charles de Ketelaar in an attacking position, then he's not going to like Haller, is he? They couldn't be more different. So we'll see. But it's difficult to know what that coach wants to do.
The natural one, I think everyone in terms of SoRare they are looking at Brobbey. Like everyone's like, oh, Brobbey will be the guy now, and obviously his price is reflecting that. But time will tell. Maybe there'll be a signing. Maybe there'll be another bloodbath. David Neres.
Maybe it's Tadic up front again.
Maybe Tadic holders loving it. I wish I never got rid of Tadic. But Neres, speaking of Ajax, from that old dream team back in the day, he's been around a bit. Whatever else, hasn't really done much. But he is off to Benfica.
He is,
which could be interesting.
Look, the fact that he hasn't done much really isn't his fault. He potentially made the worst timed football transfer in history. In moving to Shakhtar Donetsk in January. And obviously the situation there has been absolutely terrible. Football has come to a standstill and Shakhtar are having to sell loads of different players. Neres is gone. Marcos Antonio is having a medical at Lazio. Mudryk is supposed to be going to Bayer Leverkusen. Like, they're just losing players. And they have to. Like, these players need to play football. It's their career. Neres has kind of gone quiet, but he was so good in that 2019 run to the semi-finals. Goals, assists, speed, coming off that left flank. I really like this one for Benfica. If I had the money, I'd do it. I'd go for it. I'd take the rare, but it's already at 0.3, 0.4. I think when the last time I checked,
More,
I can't.
0.65, most recent sale.
Oh my god! Okay, definitely can't get involved in that, but I would be really confident in Nellis going to Portugal and doing a pretty tidy job.
Doing a job over there. Then the last one's probably the most high-profile one. Sadio Mane finally leaving Liverpool to break up that beautiful trio up top. Not that Firmino's featured a lot recently, but Mane's gone. Emotional for Liverpool players, supporters, cardholders on SoRare.
Yeah,
Mane's gone, and he's off to Bayern Munich, where you imagine he's nailed in that kind of winger roulette thing that has been going on there for so long.
He has to be nailed. I mean, he's earning quite a lot. I think it's like roughly 250 grand a week or something like that. You don't buy a player who's age 30 or 31, put him on that money, buy him for that fee, and then go, okay, let's pop you in the rotation with Gnabry and Sané, shall we? That's not how it works. So, look, the big decider here is what happens to Robert Lewandowski, and is Mane replacing Lewandowski now that Barcelona have got a bit of money to play with? And the thing that really excites me here is Mane playing as the centre forward for Bayern if Lewandowski goes, because he kind of reinvented himself for Liverpool, didn't he? Back half of this season as a number 9, bit of poacher's instinct, good pressing, all that stuff. But he's also not a conventional 9. And I don't know if you remember, but when Nagelsmann was at Leipzig season before last, he went through spells where he played no strikers at all. In fact, at some points they had 5 or 6 on the books, including Brobby, and he didn't play any of them. He just refused. He played Dani Olmo, and Kunku was like wide forwards cutting in with no one in the middle. Is he going to move back to a strikerless system and have Mane attack those spaces? It's very exciting and very interesting. And I don't know what the implications are in an SO5 perspective, but it's really exciting for sure.
Yeah, it'd be really, really interesting to see how Mane slots in there. And it does make me worry for the likes of my Sané card. And particularly, I suppose, Gnabry holders and whoever else. They're just wingers at Bayern Munich. It's just a bit of a cesspit at the minute for a rotation. Any ideas on what will happen to either of them? Any opinions on them? Or
Well, Gnabry has a year left on his deal, doesn't he? I think, and he's. I think that's the case. But I know that he's obviously so far rebuffed kind of contract talks. I don't think he's been that happy with how he's been used by Nagelsmann, and I don't think he's the only player in that scenario. Benjamin Pavard is another one. There's talk that he's going to be moving in to fully centre back, so that Mazraoui can now play on the right. So there's a bunch of players here who have massive question marks over their names. I think Sané, in terms of staying at Bayern Munich, is pretty safe. Again, big investment, and actually ticked on and decided to play quite well at points in the end. The noises you get out of the Gnabry stuff, it screams transfer, doesn't it?
It really screams the contract. Mane coming in. It screams it. I seen him linked with Arsenal. He obviously was there when he was younger, wasn't he?
Yeah, back to Arsenal. Yeah. I mean, nice. I mean, he's good enough to go and play for most teams. Like, if Real Madrid signed him as a rotational right winger, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. If Man United turned up and said, we want to make you a starter, I'd go, yeah, fair enough. Like, he's excellent.
I'm having a look there. Have there been any other transfers that would jump out at us? Anything else happen that's a bit...
Well, Lukaku is about to go back.
Lukaku back to Inter, yeah. And you know what? Like, when you look at him on SoRare data, Lukaku, I looked at his super rare not too long ago.
All in.
I looked at it like months ago thinking there's no way he stays with this being the case. Now, I didn't buy it. But let me see. How's he got on? Expired listings. What on earth's going on there?
Lukaku. His floor is 3.5 ETH for a rare right now. But his trading volume has been 1.8.
Yeah. He Lukaku going back to Inter. Like, I mean, if we look back at his scores when he was there, he just was incredible. But obviously the manager was different. That was when Conte was there, wasn't it?
True, but ultimately the new manager, Inzaghi, he changed. I don't want to give him a disservice, but like, he didn't change very much. They brought in another manager who plays the same formation, 3-5-2, same strike combination, type of profile of player. They lost the quality of Hakimi and Lukaku and Eriksen, and they kind of replaced them with players that are sort of the same, but like just not quite as good. Like Hakan Çalhanoğlu instead of Eriksen and stuff like that. It just wasn't quite as good, and that's why they ended up a little bit short, I think, in terms of quality. But stick Lukaku back in that system, mate. Put him back in that league, and he's going to score 25. I think I'd be all in on that.
Yeah, no, I think he goes back there, and it's just a match made in heaven. Sure, we've already seen it. It's not even like there's much left unknown. I mean, he's going to go in there, and he's going to be. Would the fans care much about what he's done? or will they just accept it and be like, ah, look, you're back?
I really don't know. I mean, he's been sort of flirting with them the entire time in England anyway, hasn't he? Because he did that ridiculous interview back in November or December where he talked about how he still loves Inter Milan. And I mean, obviously, as a fan of Inter Milan, you're going to take that really, really well. Like his heart seems to be there, but Chelsea fans weren't particularly happy. That coincided with an injury, and then it all kind of went downhill from there. But look, Inter Milan have just lost their title to their city rivals. If Lukaku wants to come back, I don't think anyone's going to be moaning about that because they're probably hurting from the fact that they lost their title.
Yeah, they'll the pressure on him to deliver. Can he do what Zlatan did? Coming in and bringing the title.
Yeah.
I'm looking there. The NFT NYC's on. There's just been an announcement on the SoRare Discord saying, "Come and say hello." They've got a little SoRare of a little booth there. NFT NYC. Anything that interested you? Do you have any other NFTs, or is it just SoRare?
I have a. I've signed up for the beta for Club, the Club game.
Oh yeah.
So I know the guys over there, and I played 5 Yards, which was their like first venture into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that game. I really did. And when it got shut down, I was absolutely gutted. I was always checking the scores on a Saturday to see if Ivan Toney had earned me 4p for a goal, that sort of stuff. I was really I was really into it, and I struggled when it disappeared. And SoRare actually, it scratched that itch. But they're producing that game, and the beta is supposed to be very, very soon, I think, in the coming days. So I'm really excited. So that club is an NFT, so I have that. But apart from that, I have absolutely nothing apart from the random flyers that people keep putting in my OpenSea account that I don't want. I'm not very. As I said, I'm not very crypto, and I'm actually not very NFT. I'm just mostly football, so it's means to an end for me.
But this is the thing with NFTs, I think, like for them to really go mainstream and blah, blah, blah over the next 3, 5, 10 years. Like when you look at it, like on the face of it, I am an NFT guy who has a lot of bloody NFTs. You're into SoRare, you've got the club.
Mm-hmm.
But when it really boils down to it, you see all the like whitelisty Discord bollocks and getting your NFTs and wallet addresses to get thises and that's and the perks and claim your thises that you've won in the airdrop. It's just all a bit clunky or a bit like meh, a lot like work. See, once a lot of that stuff becomes much more intuitive to the layperson, that's the main barrier. Because I mean, if that's how I feel, how does my mate Gregor feel, who hasn't a notion what an NFT is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a friend called Ed who flips pictures of birds like as NFTs, and he did 6 months.
Birds or birds?
Birds, like owls.
Oh, okay.
Buys and sells pictures of owls as NFTs and makes profit, and like that's what he does. Like he's a graphic designer, so he's at work at home, and on the side he just buys pictures of owls. He has great fun with it, but each to their own, Ed. Each to their own.
Sounds like a right hoot.
Very good.
Oh,
I haven't used that on him. Damn. I'm going to use that later.
Was so easy, yeah. So people, you just see like the retention of the podcast, it's just dipped. People have just seen themselves out there like, I can't deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah.
If you did enjoy that joke, here's one for you. Go and leave me a review on Apple and just say, what a hoot. Oh my God, this podcast is such a hoot. And then I'll know that you enjoyed that joke. Or go on to Spotify. It actually is way quicker on Spotify. You can click a little 5 stars there and I will love you. Okay, we'll answer a few questions submitted by the community. So actually, do you know what? Relatively topical. MDJ, who's involved with Club. Good guest again. What do you think it would take for SoRare to go truly mainstream? And if you were in charge, what's the first thing you'd do to move the product closer towards that? So have you tried to onboard anyone or try to explain it to anyone who you know in the football world and they've kind of been like, meh? Like, is there anything you change?
I've obviously I've tweeted about SoRare, and as a result of that, the odd person here and there has gone, oh, what's that? Or, oh, I'll have a look at that. And I've basically, I don't know if I'm part of the problem there, because I immediately say, it's SoRare, it's this. If you have any questions, message me, do your research. And also, I always go and tell them to watch your introductory videos as well. But like, just go and look at John's videos on YouTube, and like seriously sit down for 40 minutes and just look at it. I don't know if I'm coming on too strong there, and that might be a problem. But yeah, there's not the completion rate isn't very high. And I did see this question from MTJ, and I sat down for like 20 minutes yesterday because I wanted to give you an answer that wasn't just, onboard the Premier League, because like we talk about that every single week. And I swear to God, I failed. I just failed. And so I walked into the other room and I sat down with my wife and said, let's get a nice neutral, fresh perspective on this. Let me lay the groundwork for you. Here's the situation. What would you do from a marketing perspective to bring this to the wider audience? And she said, well, yeah, basically the same thing. Premier League helps, but the issues that we've been talking about, crypto skepticism is like at an all-time high, and this is like surely it's been harder to onboard anybody to SoRare than it. So it's never been harder to onboard anyone on SoRare, given what's happened in the market recently. The onboarding process is still super clunky. It's complicated. The game itself is complicated, John. Like this is something that I think about a lot. People love the simplicity of FPL. It's goal, assist, clean sheet. That is it. And it's so easy to grasp. And then you go onto SoRare and there's a whole matrix of things about forward passes and possession losses. And I think people find that genuinely overwhelming. So maybe there isn't, the adjustments we always call for with the matrix, which is basically, can you stop punishing Trent for possession losses? But maybe there's actually another strand to that, which is a simplicity angle, but not just because it feels like it's harsh on fullbacks, but because it actually might make it easier for people to understand and therefore get involved with. But one of the other issues, of course, is cost. Like, this is a difficult game to get involved with. I've just degened into a limited MLS side myself out of boredom, so I'm freshly aware of this. I've just had to pay £100 for a Diego Fagundes, an exciting player. Fine, whatever. He's cool. He's great to watch. I love his highlights. I also had to pay a similar amount for Zach McMath or William Yarborough, the goalkeepers for Royal Salt Lake and Rapids, I think it is. I don't really want to do that because that's not very exciting. That doesn't feel like a nice use of money. So there is an element of like, to get involved and to compete here, to hit 300 points in All-Star or MLS America and have a chance of winning, you are going to have to spend £250 or £200. Like it's not an option.
Yeah.
And that rules out a huge amount of people. Students can't afford to play that. They can't.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? I don't know, but please continue to build out the free-to-play mechanism. Good steps on the 100 cards, but more. Need to do more. Need to leverage better prizes for the free-to-play area. Need to do the more leagues. I know that obviously I asked a question a couple of weeks ago about it, and you spoke about it with Mark, and then you spoke about it again with Channy last week. He had some really good ideas actually there. That needs to be built out, and there needs to be real-world prizes built into that. But the best idea I could come up with to answer MDJ's question is to leverage the amount of interest they already have with footballers playing this game. Because people copy footballers. A footballer does something and people copy it. It's
the haircut.
Like the haircut, but it's also the clothes. Like if Jack Grealish can wear a t-shirt of a teddy bear being beheaded and then 1,000 people go and buy that t-shirt, which is a shit t-shirt, then it just proves that people will genuinely do anything a footballer will do. So get the footballers that are involved on SoRare, of which there are many. Get them talking about it. Get them tweeting about it. SoRare should have a podcast, and they should be interviewing the footballers on their platform about their collections, why certain cards are special to them, what their teammates think. Get footballers talking about it because everyone copies footballers. That's the best idea I've come up with off 40 minutes of thinking last night.
I like it. And I can confirm that t-shirt is a shit t-shirt.
It's rubbish.
Did loads of people go and buy that off the back of it?
Loads of people bought it. It's basically launched Palm Angels as a brand. I'm kidding. It was obviously a bit more than that, but it's definitely given it a boost. It's not, lots of people wear it. I see that a lot.
Yeah. Well, no, great ideas. Loved your take on it. Fair play. And I agree with a lot of it in terms of like the barrier to entry and the complication. I think like the site is way, 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 way too complicated. There has to be. And the thing that pisses me off is they've changed the user interface multiple times over the last year, and I just don't think it's any better than it was, really. It's still all just a little bit too complicated. But look, I'm used to it now, and everyone else is, but that's because we've been using it for a long time. But like for a newcomer, the site is like mad.
Yeah, I mean the game lobby is better than it was when I joined. When I joined, it was awful. I find this one a bit complex, but the problem I have with the SoRare website when you load it up is that, again, put yourself in a position of you haven't spent any money yet. You've joined up. There's no Premier League. So if you're a casual fan, you're actually not going to necessarily recognize too many of these names that pop up on the screen, right? The name recognition is going to be lower than it should be. And you go on the opening page, and it's got like, I'll just have a look now, but it's got like 4 cards listed for auction on the page. There's a bundle of Udinese players. There's a Ryota Aoki for 42 quid. There's a Rio Miyachi for £79. If you don't know what's going on here, that is incredibly off-putting. A bunch of names you don't know for prices you probably wouldn't want to pay. You're going to go, what the hell am I getting into here?
Yeah, that's fair. This page, like, I agree. I'm looking there, new cards, because it is very, we do kind of lose touch with reality there, but a lot of people who sign up first, and they're thinking, I remember the feeling when I bought my first SoRare card, and I remember I thought, it's funny because I always feel like, oh, well, it's different now because SoRare's moved on as a product, and it's way more legit. There's more users and da. But realistically, it's the same feeling. Whenever I signed up to SoRare a year and 9 months ago or whatever, and I bought my first card, I thought I was mad spending 30 quid on Peter Zielinski. I thought I was absolutely crazy.
Me too, man. Me too.
Do you
Mine
know?
was €5.
And that was
€5 on the limited. And I was like, have I made a huge mistake?
What am I doing? I've just pissed this money away. I was like 30 quid on a JPEG. What have I done? And regardless of how much my confidence has grown on the platform over time and how I know the ins and outs and have followed its journey, to someone who's just heard about SoRare through someone talking about it and they go and check it out, it's the exact same feeling. And if I didn't in those early days have a couple of people who I kind of knew and trusted coaching me through that process, I probably wouldn't have bothered my arse. And then if you throw on top of that, you have to go and get a MetaMask wallet or a Coinbase wallet or this or that. It's just like, it really, there's a lot of barriers there. But
By the way, though, 30 quid for Zielinski, what a deal. Fair play.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I think it was 30 quid. It was one of my first. I got a Alexander Nubel for 79 quid.
Oh, very good. Well, it would have been a lot at the time, but right now it's looking like a lot. He's like 1.5 ETH, isn't he? Something like that.
Yeah. No, it was not 0.1988, 77 euros. Yes, I've got a few nice ones back then. Hans Vanek and I only paid €418 for. Coop miners. A lot of them look cheap. But yeah, good question here from Genesis. Who's going to be better for Real Madrid from an SO5 perspective, Tchouaméni or Camavinga? And I read today that Kroos didn't sign his contract.
Didn't you just buy Kroos?
I did, but I kind of hoped he'd stay and play a lot at Real Madrid. But I don't mind. I think if he goes somewhere, I think the only reason I could see him wanting to leave is that he feels that he's being replaced already by Camavinga, Tchouaméni. Modric is there. Casemiro's there. He's there. If he isn't going to be guaranteed nailed time. I mean, he retired internationally, didn't he?
Yes. That was a little while ago, wasn't it? I mean,
if you retire internationally, you want club football.
Yeah, you know? He might feel like he's completed it, mate. You know, genuinely, like how much more. Also, it might just be that he's playing hardball or whatever. But I think you're okay with Kroos because anywhere Toni Kroos goes, he plays because he's awesome. So that doesn't really matter. But yeah, Real Madrid are doing the midfield rebuild. They're getting it in through the door a year or so early, because these three aren't done. By no stretch of imagination. It's a difficult question to answer because the obvious answer is they'll both score really well once they've settled into the team. But it's also really difficult to answer because it kind of depends on the manager. And with Real Madrid, you never really know who's going to be in charge from one year to the next. And when Florentino Perez hits that big red button, but under Ancelotti, which is kind of like how I can answer the question, I guess, I think the answer is probably Camavinga. And that's because Madrid under Ancelotti, there's kind of like a lawlessness to their attack. It's so different to everybody else's. You look at Guardiola and Klopp and Tuchel and the way that they try to instigate patterns of play and frameworks for the attack, and the ball goes here, then it comes back here, and you've got patterns. Real Madrid is literally just like, just run around a bit and do what you want. You're all brilliant. Just do it. And that is genuinely what they do. They are so different to everybody else. And I think Camavinga really thrives in that kind of atmosphere because he's so well-rounded and can do so many things. And if you don't weigh him down by tactical principles, I think he just goes mad. I think he flourishes. So I think they both score really well, but I think Camavinga has the edge.
I think for me, I'd answer Camavinga with a much less eloquent answer purely because he's already shown us in, what was it, half a season at Real Madrid, that in that time, through rotation and everything else, he still shot a 77, an 85, a 92, a 91, and a couple of 60 scores. He has shown in that team that he can put up all around scores of 37, of 30, of 32, of 24. So like, I think if he was to become a much more nailed player, and bear in mind he's under 23 till 2027, give him 2 years, give him 3 years. You're still going to have 2 years under 23 eligibility of Camavinga in a Real Madrid team where I believe if he was actually nailed every week and playing week in, week out, would be Cruz-esque.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit strong, but like,
don't underestimate the weight of the price tag here. Like, Tchouaméni for 100 million is a lot. It's arguably a bit too much, but whatever. They had a lot of Mbappe money and they got burned. It's just the way the world works. And it feels like a good deal anyway, because Tchouaméni feels like he can't fail. But the number of transfers for 100 million or more that have actually worked is disgracefully low. Like, the hit rate is appalling. Even if the talent looks nailed on, the hit rate is awful. So just from that perspective as well, just to add it in, it's all hypothetical. And I'm not saying Tchouaméni fails, because I think he's brilliant. But just like Camavinga came in, he's already there, as you say. He's already posting the scores, and he doesn't have this price tag, which has felt so prohibitive to so many players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like transfers that there's so many of them, as you say, that have been up in that sort of those upper echelons that just don't really work out.
Pogba, Griezmann, Felix,
Dembele,
they've
Lukaku.
all failed to different extents. Sometimes it's not the player's fault, but they haven't been successes. Neymar hasn't really been a success.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's a difficult market. Yeah.
Pira says, "Where's his Pomacal money?" And then he says a serious one. Tell us that. What happened?
Yeah. So Pires, big shouts out to Pires, who again has been really helpful to me, along with Pet, at the start of the game. Back when I was trading in limiteds and dipping my toes in €5 players and just getting used to it all. I had never owned a rare player before. I just didn't have a card. They were all too expensive. And Pires won a Paxton Pomacal in the under 23 reward pool. And he put it on Twitter and said, "Don't really want him," or something along the lines of, "Not that asked about this one." And I really like Pomacal, and I was like, "Well, I'll have him then," just as a joke. And then next thing I knew, there was an offer in my inbox. You send nothing, you receive Paxton Pomacal rare. So Pires gave me my first ever rare card, and I had a rough plan to build an MLS team. But do you remember last Christmas when by December the MLS prices has already just gone absolutely mad? It rocketed so much quicker than I thought it was going to. But by the time I settled down to build the team, it was already too expensive. So actually, I decided to sell Pomacal in the hype, and I got about 100. I got about 130 quid for him.
Oh no!
And I offered Pires 50% of the fee, and he declined it. So he doesn't get any money now. You can't call your debts in later.
It was a gift. Do you know what I mean?
It was a
gift.
I did offer him the money, and he said no. He's very gracious. He's also loaned me cards to hit the threshold. Like, he's a good dude.
Yeah. Loaning is very, very handy for people getting started out. Like, and I think it's great that I'd love a more official way it could be done. To be honest with you, because I think it is a really good way for people to sort of dip the toe and have a crack. But he had a serious question: who are your top 3 under 23 talents to watch out for next season under half an ETH? Now, when did he submit this question? Yeah, ETH had crashed, so it is under half an ETH. Actually, half an ETH now.
I did check. He said 0.5 per player, so it gives you a bit more wiggle room. And I prepared a top 3. I mean, my podcast is called Ranks FC. I rank stuff for a living, so of course I'm more than happy to prepare a ranking of a top 3. So I'll crack on. I rank them 3 to 1 based on how confident I am in them. 3 being could definitely go either way, and it's Ansgar Knauf. He's on loan at Eintracht Frankfurt from Dortmund. He's about 6 months into an 18-month loan. He's just won the Europa League, so he's in the Champions League next season. Now, it's a funny one because I don't know how much you've seen of him, but he's actually naturally a winger, and he's absolutely rapid. But he's been playing wing-back for Eintracht. And they've got a funny system where they basically give the ball to Filip Kostic on the left, who's like always top for key passes and best crosser in the world and all that stuff. And he crosses it in, and then Knauf kind of crashes into the back post and tries to get his head on it or his foot on it or send it back across goal. He's constantly in the box getting opportunities, and he posts some decent scores as a result of that. Now, obviously, the drawback with wing backs and stuff usually is the possession losses, right? But he doesn't have any cards as a defender. His Dortmund ones are midfielders, and his Eintracht ones are forwards. So his possession losses are stymied in terms of the negative scores. So he's still losing the ball 16, 18, 20 times a game, but he's only getting done -2 points rather than -20. So I don't know what happens next season. Do they start minting him as a defender and have all three? But either way, I think there are like 40 cards of Knauf, and the majority of them are forward, and the others are midfield. So you're going to be protected. Those 40 cards are protected against those potential changes for possession loss. Kostic might leave. It might all change. He might end up front. I don't know. But based on last season, Knauf is a player who's sort of starting to get into it a bit, and he's got a really nice, like, odd matrix protection there that was quite quirky.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if you go on to SoRare data, go to SO5 scores and sort his position by forward, defender, or midfielder, there's a notable jump whenever you go, particularly in the lower scores. Whenever he doesn't score great as a forward, he'll get a 40. But whenever you stick him as a defender, he would have got a 20 or a 25. And that can be the difference between killing a lineup or keeping you half in the race.
Yeah.
So it's a nice kind of edge to have.
Yeah, I like it. There's a lot can change there, but under 23 until 2026 and has like a chance protection against the bad bits. So I quite like it. As a threshold player, I'm always looking at like the floor rather than the ceiling. That's kind of how I've been trained to look at it, right? And that's kind of that kicking in. But the second one is, I mentioned him a bit earlier, is Marcos Antonio, signing for Lazio from Shakhtar. This guy's such a baller. Have you seen him in midfield?
No.
He's so good, man. He's so good. And he's going to Sarri's Lazio. Like, if he plays, he's going to get 100 touches a game. He's going to kill this matrix. And I don't know where the opening is. He might have to be holding midfield for now. He's more of a central midfielder, like a number 8. And he might take him a bit of time to come into the team. Obviously, they've got Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto. They've got good players. But Antonio is like, he reminds me of Thiago Alcantara at times. So the way he picks long passes and stuff, he's seriously good. Again, he's been at Shakhtar, hasn't played much. I like this a lot as a match between the two, player and manager.
I like. I love the stand for peace cards. I don't know, and this is kind of a side topic and getting more into aesthetics than the actual in-depth analysis from you, which is beautiful. But like, just when I see Shakhtar and I see that like stand for peace card in the market, I just think it's such a lovely card. And it's obviously him and Shakhtar. It'd be really interesting to see how he gets on. You're making me want to buy him. You're making me want to buy him.
I know. I'm not trying to do that. And my last player, number 1, is someone that I own. I'm not trying to pump him because I really don't want to sell him. I've got a lot of faith in this player. Is Thiago Tomas at Stuttgart. Another similar one, 6 months into an 18-month loan. He's 20, so he's under 23 until 2026. Despite the fact that Stuttgart were absolutely in the shit the entirety of the second half of last season and only survived on the last day, the coach called on him 13 times in a row to start games, right in the mix, right in the mire. He's got the trust of the coach. His play style suits the Bundesliga really well. He's super energetic and plays really direct and fast and presses. The only problem is he hasn't scored enough goals, but he is getting into the right positions. And I think he's a young striker. He's just going to mature, gets into the second half of that loan. He scored 4 goals in 13 games last season. Not really good enough. Not horrendous, but not nothing to move the needle. But if that starts to tick up this season as he starts to mature and just find that moment of composure, I've got a really good feeling about Thiago Tomas. Again, he's under 23 until 2026.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. Like all those games in a row at the end of the season, it really does say a lot, doesn't it? He got a couple of goals, which is nice, but it's always exciting to see how players like that. He's come from Sporting. How did he do at Sporting? Actually, did he do all right?
He was
player.
He was kind of in and out because they had a different Paulinho up front. I'm sure you've seen Paulinho missing open goals but scoring 30-yarders in the Champions League. Very peculiar player. Thiago Tomas though was he was one that played with the Portuguese under-21 setup and he played really well. So I caught him there, and he was with Fabio Vieira and Vitinha, and he was in the same team, and they were so good. So like all of those Portuguese players, I love. You got the Diogo Costa was in at the Porto goalkeeper. It's a hell of a generation, and he's one of their strikers.
A few nice questions here from Mark O'Sullivan to wrap up, and that's the 3 players and 3 great players at that. Fair play. The 2 or 3 questions here from Mark O'Sullivan. Given your journalism background, when do you think The Athletic will have a SoRare section, given that they already have a section for FPL? I think that's kind of funny because they notoriously aren't big fans.
Hang on a minute. I think whenever Joey D'Urso walks from his job, I don't know. Like, I think there might be an internal barrier there. I know that the SoRare community don't like Joey that much. I'm reliably informed he's a lovely guy. I know at least 10 people that work for The Athletic, again, due to the journalism background, and they all swear he's lovely. But for some reason, maybe he's just too cautious. He doesn't like these projects. Maybe he's right. But I can't see The Athletic. I can't see The Athletic picking up a section. Also, I looked up the number of active users for FPL when he asked this question. It's more than 8 million. So some work to go for SoRare's genuinely engaged 100,000 or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was kind of funny when he said that, because your man Joey obviously has a. Do you know what it is on that whole thing? Like, I'm no journalist, and I'm really not trying. I don't even need you to comment, because I don't want to try and make you come into this drama. From the outside looking in, it just seems like shit journalism, because it doesn't feel balanced. But maybe that's not the point of journalism. Maybe part of journalism is whipping up a storm so you get the clicks to sell the ads. I don't know. But for me, reading it, I really respect a lot of the concerns. I just wish it was a more balanced piece, so that it could, and then it would actually get credibility from the SoRare community. People would go, oh, well, do you know what? He has a fair point. And maybe the purpose of those articles is to alert people who are exposed to SoRare of the risks, and it would do a better job of that if it was more balanced, because then you'd actually get into the community, instead of people just being like, well, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, that's incredibly biased, that's wrong, that's sensationalist, fuck off. But anyway, that's my take on that. Question 2 from Mark. Any plans to introduce SoRare content or partnering with SoRare content producers to bring SoRare content to Ranks FC? Again, probably a bit of a way to go, as opposed to the 3 billion or something football fans around the world, or 100,000 strong.
Probably a bit too niche at this point. Also, like, again, I don't know if I've got this completely wrong, but I personally am like very, very cautious about trying to not shove it down their throats is not the right word, because that's not how it works. But odds are 50% of my listeners at Ranks FC are crypto skeptics or worse, and I don't really like alienating anybody in the listener base. And so I don't really want to present that to them from a company vehicle. Now, I talk about SoRare on my own channels, no problem. You can't stop me from doing that. That's fine. Don't listen to me if you don't want to. But from a company perspective, with the recent crash and obviously the standard skepticism, I'd be really reluctant to do that sort of thing, as useful as it could be for SoRare, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're just opening yourself up to criticism that the reward maybe isn't there for the risk you would take from like a company standpoint. And again, that does kind of go back to the point that, you know, that kind of attachment to crypto and NFT, what's the word? That NFT skepticism across the sort of footballing world. That's the main thing that needs addressed, I think. And I don't even know how you educate people, or I don't know how it works, how they're going to overcome that obstacle, really. But
you know, when a football club announces a partnership with a crypto company, and like any like a shirt sleeve sponsor or a partnership or something else, whatever it is, if you look at the replies on Twitter to that club official account tweet, and it's just a load of football fans going, this is the dark ages, why have you done this? Oh no, not my club, this is a scam. That's the barometer of it. That's what I'm cautious of, because those are the people that I'm talking to, and I don't want to present to them anything that they are so vehemently against, rightly or wrongly.
No, I hear you. And the last question, if you could give one tip to someone just about to start playing SoRare, based on your experiences so far, what would it be and why?
One tip.
They're always this question's asked all the time, but I think it's always the kind of samey stuff. And you sound like you might have something creative with that laugh. But
no, I don't think so. I was just trying to think of another answer other than just don't buy players that you've never seen play, would be what I would tell people. If you're nervous about the products, if you're dipping your toes, if you're nervous about the platform, if you're not sure about crypto, all of this stuff, and if you're worried about investing 200, 300, even 400 or 500 pounds at times into a footballer, a picture of a footballer at its core, just make sure you know he's a good player. Like, make sure you've seen him. This is how I started. I didn't buy anybody that I hadn't seen play and I knew was good, because you never know when you're looking at, I don't know, let's a random Belgian team's like recent 11s. You go and pick a player who's played all of the last 15. All right, he seems like a safe bet. Could be that there's another dude who's torn his ACL, he's out, and in 3 months he's back in, and that guy's out. If you're uncomfortable with this unknown, just buy players you know are good. That's basically what I did, because then you remove a layer of risk.
Yeah. No, I hear you. If you go
also,
around
if it
buying
goes through the
guys,
pan, like if Umar Saleh, gets a bad move and it ruins his matrix scores, well, at the very least, you can sit there and go, well, I know he's a good player, so at least there's that. I can sit on that. Like, I haven't bought a bunch of rubbish. I didn't do what Sam did and bought a 35-year-old backup goalkeeper who went to Kaiserslautern. That was really dumb, wasn't it? You didn't do that.
Yeah, no, that is fair. And I think that's why quite often now when I'm looking at like more speculative kind of super rares and stuff, I like looking at under 23s that are in champion. This is completely against what you're saying. It's kind of not against, but it's different to what you're saying. But I'm kind of segueing into this
because I feel level of exposure, man. It's like starting versus playing.
Yeah, it is. But I feel like when I buy like the champion under 23s who are outside teams, the downside is that they get transferred, possibly to a challenger team, which would be great. So it's not necessarily downside; it's actually upside. So in real world football terms, he's not going to cut it. He has to go to Belgium. Okay, that suits me down to the ground. He's not going to cut it here. He has to transfer to a different team in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. And why are they buying him? Probably to play him. Or he breaks into the first team. I feel like it's win-win-win unless he is a bench fodder player for 8 years or goes to Saudi Arabia or, do you know? I feel like those types of players, if they're actually decent or they've shown something at some stage, I just think there's a lot of upside there and the downside's quite limited. And even if they don't play long enough and there is that bit of hype, not playing is probably the best thing that can happen for their price if they're a hype guy. But look, Sam, we're getting on. I need to bounce. So I'm actually going to go and record a fun video with Mark O'Sullivan, who we just answered some questions from about the effects of ETH and on SoRare and stuff. That video will be going at my YouTube over the next few days. So I hope people enjoy that. But we need to play the 137 game before you go. So last week, Channy picked Gill and Fuji, who scored a combined total of... He mightn't have been far off here, He predicted something pretty outrageous. He said Gill would hit an 80, Gill hit a 78, and he said Fuji would hit 57. He only hit 36. So we got a total of 112. I'm just checking my maths. It's 114, not 12. 114, which leaves him 23 off, which means 27 quid goes to charity, which means we're up to 142 quid. I'm going to have to square this balance soon. Might give it another week or two. It's going to charity. Do you know what I think I'm going to do? And this will divide the audience. I think I'm going to give it to a dog charity in my town, where I'm from. I fucking love dogs, man. I am like creepily. I love dogs too much. Not too much. You can't love them too much. Anyway, Sam, who are your 2 players?
I've been waiting my whole life to play this game, John. My whole life.
And you're going to nail it. I hope you nail it.
It's out of season, so it's difficult for me, but I'm going to go for 2 of my MLS players that I've recently acquired. I'll take Alan Franco at Atlanta United, centre back, and Diego Fagundes, who will be my captain this week for sure. He's at Austin.
Fagundes.
Yeah, Franco and Fagundes, 2 Fs.
Well, look, I wish you the best of luck with that. Sam, thanks a million for your time. I really do appreciate it. You're obviously making lots and lots of content. Is there anything you want to plug before you go, or where can people hear you talk more about football?
Sure, yeah. I run a weekly podcast on a Wednesday called Ranks FC. I used to work for Bleacher Report, and that podcast was called BR Football Ranks. I left, took the podcast independently, so any support is appreciated. We talk about European football, basically. That's kind of what we do. So if you like your football, need a podcast that isn't necessarily SoRare related, but is just about football, then come give us a shot. That'd be great.
Cool. Ranks FC, and it's at Sam Tighe on Twitter. But
S-Tighe Football.
S-Tighe. Yeah, okay. People can find you. You'll be tagged anyway. Look, thanks a million. I'm sure, hopefully it won't be the last time we speak. I'll see you in the summer anyway.
Yes. I'll see you at the meetup. That's going to be good.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you want me to walk you onto the stage holding your hand, given you're so nervous about speaking in front of all those people?
I'd say yes, but I think your hand would be very wet with the sweat off my palms, which is rotten. Yeah, I don't know. I think
a lovely note to leave on.
I actually, do you know what? I'm kind of bigging it up. Like, I will actually be grand. I've done stuff before. It just is a wee bit nervy. Like, when you're used to talking. Like when you're doing live streams to hundreds of people, you don't really give a shit. But when you're sat and they're all looking at you, do you know what the big thing I'm kind of nervous for? It's the live feedback. Like I'll say something on this podcast and I might think it's kind of funny. And maybe everyone at home has a giggle. Or maybe they're just flat palm faced and they think, ugh, get on with the football stuff. Do you know? I have no idea. But when I do it live and I think something's funny and it's like crickets, it'll be like, oh, fuck. Or maybe I'll say something I don't think that's funny and everyone's laughing their tits off. And I'll be like, I'll start to think I'm a comedian and I'll go too far. So anyway, it'll be good fun. It'll be good fun.
Yeah, it will be, yeah. Keep your ego in check and you'll be all right. As long as you don't get heckled, everything's fine. You did great.
Oh, I'm definitely going to get heckled, man, aren't I? Oh, I don't know if I've skin thick enough for that shit. Like, need to come up with a few quippy, like, one-liners. Need to come up with them.
This is why you want people to get the tickets in early, so you know everyone's identity, so you can figure out all of your insults.
Yeah. I have a comeback for you. I have a comeback for you. You know, like something really cutting
in the mirror the entirety of July. Yeah,
you know, something that I should never have known. You know, like literally researching them, private investigators, and they give me shit, and I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't piss myself in P6, Alex. Do you know what I mean? Like, Anyway, Sam, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you later. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to go and find Sam on social. You can find me at John Nellis on Twitter, and we'll see you next week. Do subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, and like the video. Bye-bye.